Chapter 8. Something Still in Her Hands. The Lord is near to all who call on him, to all who call on him in truth. Psalm 145, verse 18. The drive back from the city was mostly silent, and it was a silence with edges, neither hard nor soft, just there. Ruthie sat twisted toward the window, the duffel bag in the tray, proof that her whole life had shrunk down to a small, battered bag. She barely blinked at the familiar landscape rushing by, feeling every minute in her bones. By the time James turned onto the last stretch of gravel, dusk had collapsed over the farm. The paddock stretched away in golds and fading blues, the long shadows of fence posts trailing back behind them like tired ghosts. It looked peaceful, beautiful even, but Ruthie could only feel the raw, hollow ache of loss, the way it hurt to hope for anything at all. James parked. Ruthie opened the door before the engine cut off. She slid out with the book clutched to her chest, moving on autopilot. No words, no goodbyes or thank you, just a need to get away. From the way everything inside her felt split wide open. Bear hopped down from the tray and padded quietly behind her, the gentle tap of his nails on the steps the only sound as she let herself into the cottage. She didn't look back. She couldn't. Not yet. James followed at a distance, her bag in hand, setting it gently inside the door. He stood there for a moment, hat crushed between his hands, as if he might say something. Instead, he cleared his throat.
"I'm about to put some dinner on,"
he said, voice steady but soft.
"You're welcome to join me, or I can leave a plate if you'd rather be alone."
Ruthie stood with her back to him, too hurt and exhausted to turn around. James hovered a second longer, then, with a quiet nod she couldn't see, let the door fall closed behind him. The room felt huge and empty. Ruthie dropped the bag and just stood there. The last of the sunlight spilled across the floorboards, gold and deep amber, making even the dust motes seem sacred for a moment. She let herself collapse to the floor, knees giving out. Opening the duffel, she stared at what remained. A worn jumper, a few crumpled papers, a toothbrush, and a photo, creased, half-burned at one edge, of herself as a child, beaming at the camera. That old grief rose again, sudden and sharp. She pressed the photo to her lips and sobbed, low and desperate, clutching her knees to her chest. The tears wouldn't stop, not for a long time. Not until her throat ached and her chest was sore, and her whole body felt hollowed out, as if the crying had wrung her dry. Night came, slow and invisible, swallowing the gold. The air outside was still, no wind, no stars, just a heavy hush pressing against the cottage walls. It was the silence that made everything inside echo louder. A while later, James's voice broke through the quiet from the porch.
"Dinner's ready."
He called as she heard his boots crunching closer.
"Nothing fancy? I'll just leave a plate by the door in case you'd rather eat alone. Or you can bring it up to the house, if you feel up to it."
Ruthie sat frozen, unable to answer, only listening to the retreat of his footsteps. She saw the plate rest on the step, steam rising from it. Ruthie tried to decide what to do. Even simple choices felt like cliffs these days. After several minutes, she forced herself to move. She stepped onto the porch, lifted the plate in both hands, the warmth almost shocking against her skin. She stood at the threshold, torn between staying in her hole and risking something more. For a long, uncertain moment, she stood frozen, staring at the food, caught in the eye of a quiet storm made of exhaustion, hunger, and a loneliness too deep to name. Eventually, the weight of indecision became too heavy to carry, so she didn't decide. She just moved. Ruthie walked, slow and unsteady, toward the main house, the plate wobbling in her trembling hands. At the door, she paused, her palm resting against the cool wood. Then, without a word, she stepped inside. James was at the kitchen table, hands folded, eyes tracing the grain of the wood. He didn't look up, just nodded toward the empty chair.
I'm glad you joined me.
He said, his voice quiet but sure. Ruthie sat down at the table and began eating, each bite a minor act of defiance against the sorrow that wanted to swallow her whole. When she finished eating, Ruthie stood and turned to James.
Can I take your plate?
You don't need to do that.
James replied gently.
I want to. Please, let me.
She insisted, her voice wavering.
I need to feel like I'm doing something, even if it's small. It feels like nothing compared to everything you've done for me. I just want you to know I'm grateful, even when I can't always show it.
James paused, meeting her eyes.
I don't need anything in return, Ruthie. I promise.
She offered a quiet smile and carried the dishes to the kitchen, methodically rinsing and stacking them. The simple rhythm of washing calmed her hands, which had only just stopped trembling. After setting the final dish in the sink, Ruthie returned to the table. Her voice was soft.
Thank you, James, for everything. I should get some sleep.
James nodded, warmth in his gaze.
It was my pleasure, Ruthie. Sweet dreams.
She gave him a small, genuine smile, one that didn't hide behind fear or politeness, and turned toward the door. The night air greeted her as she stepped outside, the cottage light glowing faintly in the distance. Back inside the cottage, Ruthie moved slowly toward the bed, every step weighed down by the ache of the day. The silence settled around her like a blanket, one that didn't comfort so much as expose just how tired she truly was. She had lost everything, her home, her belongings, her sense of safety. Fear had become a permanent shadow in her existence, something that curled up beside her no matter where she went. But amid the wreckage, something unexpected had broken through. Kindness. Gentle, steady, unwavering kindness that she had never known. James had been there, present, patient, and giving, yet never demanding anything in return. He kept reassuring her that she owed him nothing, and that confused her. Her old patterns, shaped by trauma and twisted by years of survival, whispered familiar lies. You have to repay kindness. He'll expect something, eventually. You'll feel safer if you offer first. There was even a fleeting, familiar thought of heading back to the main house and offering her body as a form of repayment, because in her past, that kind of transaction felt more predictable than genuine grace. It was what she had known: give something, or risk it all being taken anyway. But then, quiet, small, and almost impossible to trust, something inside her stirred. A flicker of belief. For the first time, she believed James when he said he didn't want anything from her. Not her body, not her loyalty, not her debt. Just for her to be safe. So she didn't go back to the main house. She didn't bargain with her body. She didn't try to prove her worth. Instead, she crawled beneath the blankets, and for the first time in her life, she allowed herself to receive kindness without sacrifice.
Thank you for listening to this chapter of Healing on the Land. If this story has touched your heart, I'd love for you to come join me for the next chapter. You can find it here on this channel. If you'd like to support more Christian storytelling, you can purchase the full book or make a donation using the link in the description. Your support, no matter the size, helps us to continue writing stories of faith, healing, and hope. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. May God bless you, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.